Republican Senator Todd Young.
Senator Todd Young.
Senator Todd Young.
This U.S. senator just made a statement that few will ever hear, but every Filipino should. But who is Senator Young? Why does his voice matter? And why did this single statement send a ripple all the way from Washington to Beijing? But who is this man? And why does his voice matter so much right now? Stay with us until the end, because we'll reveal the one unstoppable capability the Philippines is quietly building that China simply cannot counter. Todd Young is not just another U.S. politician. He's a former U.S. Marine, a graduate of Annapolis, a member of the Republican Party, and today, one of America's most influential senators on foreign policy and military spending. More importantly, he sits on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where billions of dollars in defense and aid spending are shaped. He has pushed Indo-Pacific deterrence acts, supported military aid for allies, and argued that standing with the Philippines is a matter of U.S. national security. During his visit to the Philippines, Senator Todd Young didn't just shake hands or pose for cameras. He spent time on the ground with the Philippine Marines and the Coast Guard. He spoke with the men and women holding the line at sea, watched their drills, and saw firsthand the discipline behind their actions, and what he observed left a strong impression. "They've become quite sophisticated," Young remarked of the Filipino mariners. "From Coast Guard boat handling, to first aid, to maritime domain awareness. You're seeing a real evolution. Not just more training, but a shift in posture. They're responding to China's new tactics with greater capability and greater resolve." It was more than a compliment. It was recognition from a U.S. Marine turned senator that the Philippines has moved from being reactive to being ready, and that China now faces an adversary it can no longer dismiss. And his visit to the Philippines couldn't have come at a more critical moment. On August 11th, 2025, just days before Senator Young arrived in Palawan, Central Philippines, the South China Sea has erupted in chaos. During a routine supply mission by the Philippine Coast Guard, a Chinese destroyer and a China Coast Guard cutter smashed into each other while trying to chase down a small Philippine Coast Guard patrol ship near the disputed Scarborough Shoal. Through the chaos of the collision and the sheer severity of the moment, one detail stood out above everything else. The Filipino sailors never lost their composure. Even as massive Chinese vessels lunged at them with ramming attempts and aggressive maneuvers, these Filipinos held the line. Calm, steady, unshaken. They endured every shove, they outmaneuvered ships many times their size, and they made sure the world would see the truth. With cameras rolling, they captured every reckless move, every self-inflicted wound China delivered in its desperation. What was meant to intimidate instead exposed Beijing's recklessness and showcased the discipline of a small crew that refused to be broken. That's the backdrop for Senator Young's words. His visit, though symbolic, was also a huge statement. The Philippines is no longer the underdog in these waters. As a senior member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Young sits at the very heart of America's decisions on where billions of dollars in defense funding, training, and military aid are directed across the Indo-Pacific. So when he describes Filipinos as sophisticated, it's not casual praise. It's a strategic acknowledgement. It means Washington no longer views Manila as a vulnerable bystander, but as a rising frontline partner, shaping the balance of power in the region. For decades, the Philippines lived with a painful truth. It was under-equipped, reactive, and forced to fight from behind. Each confrontation at sea reminded the world of the imbalance. Chinese ships outgunned them, outnumbered them, and forced Manila into a defensive crouch. The Philippines could only endure, absorbing the pressure, improvising with whatever limited resources they had, and trying to hold on. But those days are fading fast. Today, the image of the Filipino mariner is changing. From the Coast Guard boat handling to emergency first aid, from radar screens to maritime domain awareness, crews are no longer scrambling to react under pressure. They are executing with precision, discipline, and confidence. This is not the Philippines of old. This is a force that has adapted, evolved, and hardened under the relentless pressure of Chinese intimidation. Every ramming attempt, every water cannon blast, every blockade was meant to weaken them, but instead, it forged them. What Beijing tried to break has only grown harder, sharper, and far more determined. Now, the world is beginning to notice, and even America's leaders are admitting that the Philippines is no longer just reacting to the fight, it is preparing to shape it. Look at Balikatan. 2025, the largest in history. What once began decades ago as small-scale humanitarian drills has now expanded into a full-spectrum warfighting exercise. Filipinos are no longer standing at the sidelines as observers. They are firing live missiles, piloting drones, and integrating seamlessly into allied kill chains. This is what sophistication looks like. The Philippines isn't isolated. It's now tightly woven into the Pacific's battle network, shoulder to shoulder with the world's most advanced militaries. Directly facing China's aggression is Palawan. It is no longer just a distant front line. It's fast becoming a fortress. Stretching like a rugged finger into the West Philippine Sea, this island chain is the closest Philippine landmass to the contested Spratly Islands. Its beaches and coves face directly towards some of the most heavily disputed waters on Earth. Whoever commands Palawan commands the gateway to the South China Sea. For years, it was little more than a staging point, a place where small detachments rotated through, often with limited gear and little staying power. But that's changing fast. Now, with US-funded fast boat bases, forward repair hubs, and facilities for uncrewed surface vessels, Palawan has become a true launch pad. It gives the Philippines the ability to sustain patrols and operations at the exact flashpoints where China pushes hardest. For the first time, Filipino crews can sortie from Palawan, meet aggression head-on, resupply, repair, and return to station in days, not months. What was once a thin defensive line is now a hardened spear point aimed squarely at protecting Philippine waters and keeping the South China Sea open to all. 40 new OSEA patrol boats from France. Japanese-built radar networks and Coast Guard cutters. These aren't heavy warships, they're persistence platforms. Fast, agile, and designed for the daily grind of the gray zone fight. In a clash of ramming, blocking, and water cannons, it's not always the missiles that decide the outcome. It's speed, maneuverability, and the will to stay on station longer than the opponent. And that's exactly what the Philippines is building. A fleet that can outlast, outmaneuver, and outexpose China's tactics. Yesterday's doctrine was simple. Avoid escalation, stay out of the way, survive the storm. Today, that mindset is gone. The new doctrine is clear. Document every move, resist unlawful pressure, protect every inch of sovereign waters, and endure whatever is thrown your way. This is the transformation Senator Young was pointing to. A real posture shift, born from experience and hard lessons at sea. The Philippines is no longer content to play a cautious defense. It is shaping the narrative, setting the tempo, and proving that even against larger powers, resolve and precision can rewrite the rules. And the Philippines isn't standing alone. Japan delivers radars and ships. The US builds bases. Australia and India sail together with Filipinos in joint patrols. Sophistication means not just better tools, but better allies. So, what's the one thing China cannot counter? It's not just new ships or bases. It's the Filipino mariner, their will to endure, sharpened by training, backed by allies, and recognized by America's leaders. At Scarborough, one small Philippine patrol boat forced a Chinese destroyer into recklessness. That's sophistication. And that's why a US senator stood in Palawan and said, "The Philippines will change everything."